What's up, everybody? This is Trevor. Getting my mic all dialed in, get my desktop all dialed in here. 1 second, let me shut off a couple systems here. We're gonna get ready to roll. As y'all are coming in here, let me know through the questions panel, of course, if you guys can see me, hear me, and some people popping in here already. Welcome to this week's Market Leaders Revealed training, and I'm crazy pumped about today's guest. And you guys have heard of our guest today, likely. He's spent tens of millions of dollars on Facebook ads over the years, and he's really specialized in real estate investors the last 1.5 to 2 years, and spent almost $1 million in Facebook ads for motivated sellers. So we're basically going to break apart what Kylie Newbold, our good friend, and Kylie works with a ton of our clients for driving Facebook, using Facebook ads to drive sellers. So we're gonna be breaking apart what's working best in that $750,000 in ad spend that has gone into motivated sellers here in the past 1.5 years. Those of you that are popping in here, just a little quick technology check. If you guys could put through the questions panel, please, a quick double yes. If you guys can see me, hear me, awesome. What's up? Looks like someone's there. Hello. It's funny, the way that our chat system works, if you're not logged into your Carrot account, it comes up with 2 random words and puts them together. So this person in here right now is Mint Birdhouse. So I don't know what your real name is, but Intercom, our chat system's calling it Mint Birdhouse. If you're logged into your Carrot account, it'll tell us your real name and all kinds of cool information about you, so we can chat with you. But Mint Birdhouse from Vancouver, that might be actually Alex. I'm not sure. If you guys can give us a quick double yes, if you guys can hear us, see us. And Alex, if you're watching this, if you can just give a quick double yes as well. That way we know that the audio and video is working. There's usually a lot of shy people too, right? A lot of shy people. People don't want to be the first one to step up. And also, one thing I will toss out there is, if you guys can hear me or see me right now on the video screen, it's a little bit of a new background. So last week was our Carrot team retreat out here in Oregon. We flew the whole Carrot team in. 16 of us at that time. We're 18 as of February 1st. There will be 18. It's hired 2 amazing team members. One to dive in and work directly with clients, and he's actually a Carrot client himself. His name is Grady. He's pumped, and we're insanely pumped to bring him aboard. And the other one's a writer to help us put out even more better content. But we changed my desk around this way because I had a bunch of my team members back here working on some things. So you get to see the other part of my office. A little bit messy today. The kids were there, couch. If you guys can do a quick double yes through the questions panel, make sure I'm looking at the right chat box. I haven't seen anyone pipe it in there yet. Alex, if you can do that as well, please. Just pop a little little thing through the question panel. So I want to make sure if we're going to start on this dealio that everyone can hear it. Let me message one of my team members real fast. Just want to make sure the chat box is working and the actual audio and video is working where you guys are looking at. Where are you guys calling in from? In this Market Leaders Revealed training, the cool thing about it is there's people calling in, usually from all around the country, even some up in Canada. So let me know where you guys are calling in from over there. Okay, 1 second here. Might be a little technical glitch with our chat box, guys. We'll get it. But it looks like you guys can hear me and see me. Alex on my team can hear and see. It looks like we might just have an issue rerouting stuff over to this chat that I'm looking at. So we'll look at it. We'll get it taken care of. We'll dig in. That's weird, man. So Renee says you're on YouTube, but not in the coaching call site. So Alex, if you could hear that, man, it looks like some people might be looking at it on YouTube, but not on the actual coaching call site, which is kind of weird. So make sure we've got the right link over there if you could, man. Yeah, I'm in the live webinar box, correct? Yep, and there's only one in there that is from Renee, and nothing else has gone in there except for someone that said hello. But Renee said that you're on YouTube, but not in the coaching call site. So I'm not sure if people are looking in the right spot. But what I'll do is I'll show you guys where this is playing live, where you can actually access the chat box, and we'll get it, guys and gals. Technology sometimes is awesome. So right here, if you go into your Market Leaders Revealed membership area, click the one with Kylie right there. then you're going to be able to see that big old picture of me right there. And then there will be a chat box that pops up there. So if you're not seeing a page, let me share my screen really fast. If you're not seeing a page that looks like this right here, then you're probably not able to actually use the chat box. So head over to your Market Leaders Revealed training area, scroll down to the session with Kylie right there, click it, and then you'll be on this area where you can ask questions in there. All right, so we're gonna get going, and hopefully the questions will get piped over. Alex, if you can just double check on a few things to make sure that's working, that will be perfecto. So Kylie, dude, I'm gonna unshare my screen here and open it up to you, dude. So first of all, I wanna welcome aboard our guest today, and Kylie and I have gotten to know each other pretty well the last year and a half to 2 years. He's in my mastermind. We got to hang out the first time in person in Nashville. Our wives were there and we had a blast. And it's just really, really awesome hearing Kylie's story and what his previous career was and how it really prepped him to do what he's doing today and what he's doing with real estate investors today. And he'll mention that to you before he digs in and shows you what's working the best. And then also we hung out, dude. So we got to tell this story really briefly, but we hung out down in Sedona, Arizona at my mastermind this last year. And we were looking for a time to like sit down and talk. And we were kind of not forced, like it was a blast. But we like, by de facto, we got lost in the desert and we sat there for what, 2-3 hours?
Yeah. We were driving one of those side-by-side ATVs.
Yep.
And we're kind of taking turns just ripping through the desert on it. I think Trevor secretly broke it before he had me switch over to driving it, so it would look like I had broken it. But yeah, we broke down, like a piece of the axle kind of broke on our ATV, and through kind of a series of comedy of errors, we were out there for a good 3 hours probably.
Mm-hmm.
Started getting dark in the desert. I mean, luckily it was good company, and we weren't too worried. It was nice weather. We did some of the traditional kind of throwing rocks, see who could hit a tree first. And I can tell you guys, Trevor's baseball background's no joke. I can see the center fielder in his arm. It was a lot of fun.
But you're the one that hit that thing, dude. I didn't hit it. So you nailed it. So you got the credit there. But no, it was a blast hanging out with you, man. And if any of you guys are not in a mastermind, I highly, highly suggest find one. Even if you form your own, which is what I did about 7 years ago, find one that you can join, because the people that you'll meet, the opportunities to connect with them, it happenstance things just like that, where we didn't plan on busting the ATV we're in and hang out in the middle of the desert for 3 hours. But that was like one of the most amazing times in the mastermind. It was a blast. So what we're going to do now is, Kylie, why don't you kind of intro people, you on who the heck you are. And what I'm going to do is, do you want to share your screen, or do you want me to share the screen for you with the slides?
I'll share my screen.
All right. It's all you, man. So take it over and we'll dig in.
All right. Perfect.
Mm-hmm. And start with the title slides to set the context for that. So everyone can see. Yeah. Go on to that next one there with the $750,000 in Facebook ads, and we'll get going, man. And while Kylie's prepping the slides, I'm crazy pumped, like I said, because every single person we're bringing onto the Market Leaders Revealed series is someone that we can vet and verify the numbers behind. Okay, so we didn't just hear that Kylie is good at doing this and then just decide to bring him on. We can see the data. We can see the clients that he's managing Facebook ads for. We can see the leads that are coming in from them. So this is all real data. It's all real data that he has and stuff that we can verify. So we're pumped about it. Kylie, take it over, man.
Yeah, awesome. So I thought, at the risk of doing a little bit of self-promotion, I thought it would be helpful to just spend a couple of minutes on where I've been and my background in marketing. So I've been in marketing a long time. I used to be a sales guy many years ago, and I loved sales, but realized that I loved the psychology piece even more, and the path that takes people into the buying process. And so long story short, I sort of made the shift from sales to marketing and started getting involved in startups, and had a fantastic run of working in a handful of startups. The most successful and most notable is the one that's on the screen now. So this is the Color Run, which became the largest and fastest growing 5K in the world. So 5K running event. You may have seen some images like these. I pulled this one here of the Eiffel Tower just because I love this image so much. And our team actually had to hand clean the bottom layers of the Eiffel Tower of colored powder because it got on the Eiffel Tower. But anyways, I started with the Color Run, a small group of people, and we built it to about 70 million in annual revenue. And the reason I share that is so much of that growth came on Facebook. So you can see over here, we started at 0. By the end, we had 5.4 million. By the end of my tenure, I should say, we had 5.4 million likes on Facebook, exponentially that as far as reach and impressions and conversions and everything goes. And we spent about $15 million in advertising on Facebook alone. So that allowed me to get really deep into the capabilities of Facebook, understand what it's all about. I got introduced to a lot of the product managers at Facebook, became involved in some of the early beta testing for a lot of products, including the lead gen product that is now, a common ad type. Well, let me kind of now make the transition, I guess, of how I went from working in a 5K running event to working with investors. So some of you may be able to relate to this. I was at a point in my career where I said, man, it's really time for a change. I know that something else is calling me, and I felt that itch. And it was very serendipitous that I met then a real estate investor and wholesaler here in my local market in Salt Lake City, a guy by the name of Cody Hoffine. And he and I started chatting and wondering what Facebook could do for real estate investing. So we started running some tests, and it started working. And I started getting introduced to guys like Trevor and other investors in the space. And I got really excited for a couple of reasons. Number one, I saw that it was working. So I saw that there was an opportunity to bring value to the industry. Number two, one of the things I'm super passionate about is the ability to come into an industry and really help elevate the quality and the level of marketing and really provide an impact. So I got really excited about that. So I passed the torch to someone else at the Color Run, and I have been working exclusively with real estate investors for the past about 18 months. Here's a few quick stats: 750K in ad spend, over 6,000 leads generated, 45 million impressions, 450,000 clicks, and so many A/B tests. So many. And my goal today is to take that learning through all the A/B tests, all the trial and error, and provide you guys with a couple of really great actionable pieces of data. So I'm making the assumption that, sorry, let me move that over here real quick. Sorry, I lost my screen for a second.
You're good, man. You're good.
There we go. Okay, so I am assuming that on the call we have primarily advanced investors, so people who are doing multiple deals a month, and also just for the purposes of trying to get to some real meat and potatoes of Facebook. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on setup or Facebook page, but really I'm going to kind of jump into some higher level insights, actionable data. We're going to talk a little bit about the Facebook pixel and tracking, just a couple of things that I think are important to note. And then we'll really dive into targeting and ad content. I'll show some examples, and then hopefully have some time at the end for question and answer. So as we go throughout the presentation, if you have questions, make sure to submit them into the chat window. And then I guess, Trevor, you'll have to help me out there, maybe pick some of those and read them to me if we have time at the end.
Yep, I've got them, and it's working. They're coming through now, so we are good to go, man.
Okay, fantastic. So let's talk quickly about the pixel and tracking. So the Facebook pixel is something you've got to have on your website. I imagine most of you already do. I think important to note, however, is you need to have two types of two variations of the pixel on your site. So in the dashboard of your Carrot website, there's the ability to add the Facebook pixel that will show up on all pages. And this is typically your page view pixel. So this allows you to track anybody that comes to your website and views any page. That's the first pixel you need in place. The second one is your conversion or your event tracking pixel. So there's two ways to do that. You can either do a custom event using a URL, or you can do one of the set events from Facebook. And if you don't have that in place, that's something important. Reach out to me, or if we have time at the end, I can take a little bit of time to do that. I think probably most people do, but I just wanted to take a moment to talk about that, and also the two-step opt-in that your Carrot site likely has. It's valuable to track each of those conversions as a separate event. So if they make it to the second stage of your opt-in, and then if they complete the opt-in, that should be two separate conversion events. In my experience, valuable to have those set up as two separate events. The other thing I wanted to talk about quickly with conversion is that online conversion tracking is not linear. So this is a little drawing I did to try to demonstrate what I mean by that. So over here on the left, you have all of your traffic sources. Could be Facebook, pay-per-click, could be organic, could be direct, could be many other things. I mean, this list could go on and on and on. And all of them are driving traffic to your destination, which in this case happens to be your Carrot website. One of two things is going to happen when someone lands on your Carrot website. Either they're going to opt in, meaning they're going to take the action we want them to take, or they're not. If they take the action we want them to take, that's fantastic. You're now going to go work that lead and close that deal. If they don't opt in, and that could be for various reasons. It could be that they got distracted. We live in such a distractible world. So someone's at work surfing the web, they find your website, and then they've got to go back to work, and they don't have time to opt in, so they leave the site. It could be that maybe they're sort of just interested in what their options are with their home, maybe not quite ready to give their information. So for whatever reason, they don't opt in. So that person's going to come down here, and then one of a couple things is going to happen. Either that person is never going to come back to the website. That's what we're going to try to avoid, but it's an option and it happens. Or they'll get hit by our retargeting, so RT, retargeting. Or they'll come back to your website through a separate source. So let me give you an example. Let's say someone is surfing Facebook and they see one of your ads. They click on that ad and come to your website. While they're on your website, they get a phone call. So they're on their phone, they jump off of your website, answer the phone call, they get distracted, and later that night, they're thinking, oh man, I was looking at that website of how we could sell that home we just inherited from my grandparents. And they come, they open up a browser on their computer or on their phone, and they type in the name of your website, and they go directly. So they type in the URL of your website, they go directly to your website. If that person then fills out the lead form, Investor Carrot and Google Analytics and most other web tracking platforms use what's called a last click attribution. So that means whatever source they came from last will show as the source. Okay, so if you're looking in your leads dashboard in Carrot and you see that someone came from a direct, that means that the last thing they did was type in the direct URL of your website. If it shows pay-per-click, that means the last thing they did was click on a pay-per-click ad. But what happens, and one of the reasons Facebook is so valuable, is it helps you to create this digital ecosystem. Because my data shows that most people don't fill out the form on their first visit to the website. It's in subsequent visits that they fill out the form. So work together, because what may happen is someone, like I said, someone's surfing Facebook, or maybe someone sees a pay-per-click ad. They click on it. They don't fill out the form. That Facebook pixel tracks them. And then later they come back to the website because of a Facebook retargeting ad. That source is going to show as a Facebook retargeting ad. So just important to note, I think, as you're going down the path of your online marketing, that there are some nuances to tracking. that could be a whole separate call and conversation. But we're going to jump into Facebook. I just wanted to lay that groundwork.
Let me toss this out there too, Kylie, just kind of double down on it, because we talk about this quite a bit here at Carrot about really building your credibility profile, right? And especially going into this year where the market's more competitive than ever. That's not a bad thing. It's just more competition, right? But it's more competitive than ever. And there's just more options for sellers. So what happens is those sellers, they're going to be visiting multiple sites. Possibly they get multiple pieces of direct mail, whatever it is. They probably know that there's multiple options out there. And it's with wrapping them in your ecosystem of ads and things like that that gets them those continual touches on your brand. So if you're not at least doing retargeting, we've talked about this for 2 years. The retargeting is something that we do on every single one of our sites. We suggest you guys all do the same thing, which we'll show you the stuff that's performing the best in this call. But if you're not at least doing retargeting, they land on your site. The majority of people don't opt in, like Kylie was saying in that first visit. Even a really well converting seller site, let's say it's converting at 15 or 20%, which that's like converting really, really well. And we have some on the Google pay-per-click side that are converting like 20, 25% in Baltimore as an example, but most other markets, that's not the conversion rate. But even if it's converting well, that means 70, 80, 85% of everyone left the website without opting in. So if you don't have this set up, you have almost no chance of recapturing them back and building that credibility and fetching them back to your website when they're ready to make the decision. So it's critical for sure.
Awesome. Okay, perfect. So let's jump into some of the actual my notes on targeting. Sorry, guys. I just got the new MacBook Pro, which is screaming fast, but I am feeling the pain of not having the standard ports on the side. Like my displays keep swapping on me for some reason. So thanks for bearing with me. But all right. So let's talk about targeting. I have tested a lot of different things. And I've come to the conclusion for now, because Facebook is an ever-evolving thing, that custom data and lookalike data will outperform the Facebook built-in demographic, geographic, and interest-based targeting. So I reached that conclusion at the Color Run as well. We ran a ton of tests using that information versus our custom data, and custom data always won. So I think intuitively that makes sense, right? Because custom data is something that Facebook cannot replicate for you. But I would also add that the demographic, geographic, interest-based targeting relies a lot on third-party data. So Facebook uses data partners to gather all of this information. And because of that, the accuracy of the data is not always going to be perfect. I do have some success using that stuff, but it's not as good as the custom and lookalike data. For that reason, I'm going to focus primarily on what's working best on this call today. So custom data lists. So a lot of investors doing direct mail. Your direct mail lists are perfect lists for you to target on Facebook. Lists that you're getting from the county, for example, like a tax delinquent list. I know here in Utah, that's a big one for investors. Basically, any data that you have of potential motivated sellers that you've already invested in can be used on Facebook. So you can take these lists and load them directly into your audiences tab of your ad manager and create a list. I recommend when you're doing this that you keep these lists separate. So based on the criteria, whether it's a probate list, tax delinquent, code violation, etc., keep those separate and load them in. We'll talk about those a little bit more moving forward. Website traffic. So this is retargeting. It's actually considered a custom list and is something you have to set up inside of your audience manager. So like Trevor mentioned, retargeting is the lowest hanging fruit inside of Facebook. So if you don't have your retargeting audience set up yet, definitely get that done. And then the other one that I found great success with in the investor space is engagement. So this would be people who have engaged on your Facebook page, on your posts, on your ads, Or if you're using a mix of lead gen forms on Facebook and website conversion ads, which I do, then you can actually retarget people who have clicked on your lead gen form but didn't fill it out. So it's almost like a mini website retargeting, and allows you to keep that person in your digital ecosystem.
So to toss this out there real quick, and there's a couple of questions coming in we'll address here in a bit. So on the targeting side of things, and this is something I think people don't realize, I want you to reiterate it a little bit, is the biggest mistake I see from people coming to me that saying Facebook doesn't work for sellers is they go into Facebook, they pick a location, let's say it's their city, and they might kind of pick an age range and stuff like that. And then they launch some ads and they're going, oh my gosh, I'm either not getting leads, or the leads are bad, or they're costing me $400 a lead. So do you see that as a pretty common mistake people make when they're first starting out Facebook? They just go in there, target an area, pick basic demographics, launch ads. Is that a big mistake, number one? Then number two, the custom data. So they can literally take, I guess, what type of data do they need to have in those lists in order to be able to match them up into Facebook?
Yeah, good question, Trevor. So Facebook will accept a lot of different things. It will take first name, last name, city, state, zip, phone number. Those are kind of the common ones I use. So if you're working off of, say, an equity list from like ListSource, you're not going to have the phone number or email, but you will have first name, last name, city, state, and zip, and you actually have that for their for the property and for the seller. So you have two chances to what's called match that person on Facebook. So you can try to match them based off of the property address, and you can try to match them based off of their mailing address. So you're not going to get a 100% match rate when targeting, when uploading a list on Facebook. It's just not going to happen. Not everyone has a Facebook profile, although most people do, and not everyone's privacy settings allow them to get targeted. But we're playing a game of numbers here. So a large list is gonna help increase your match rate. That's a question I get a lot. Is how big is the best type of list for custom data? And my answer to that question is bigger is better. And part of that is, number one, it helps increase your match rate. Number two, or I shouldn't say your match rate, but it increases your match size, so the number of people you can actually target. And number two, your audience definition, which we'll get into in just a second. How specific or broad your audience is can have an impact on your ad deliverability.
Cool.
Yeah.
I like it.
Okay, so that's custom data. The great thing about custom data, you guys, is this is data you likely already have. So it's assets you've already invested in or already own that you can easily leverage into a new channel of marketing. And if you're doing cold calling, which means you're probably doing some type of skip tracing, that is a super great benefit as well, because it's going to increase your match rate, because now you have the phone number that you can add to those lists that you're uploading.
So who on here watching this call, or if you're watching the recorded version, just kind of raise your hand behind the scenes, but who on here watching this call is doing cold calling, is doing any skip tracing and or doing direct mail? And so let me know through the questions panel if you're doing any of those. And then let me know if you're doing anything with that on Facebook, because that alone right there, that alone is an action item for you this next week. If you're doing any of those, cold calling or direct mail, especially skip tracing it, like Kylie mentioned, to get extra data, this you need to write down on a piece of paper right in front of you. Do this week, and then we'll walk you through some of the mechanics of it later, probably in the Q&A section if anyone has questions on that. This is good stuff, man.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Trevor. All right, so let's talk about lookalike data. Really quickly, for those who don't know, lookalike data is the ability to have Facebook mine any set of data you give them, find the common traits among the people inside that data set, and then create a new data set of people who share those traits. So let me give you a quick example. Let's say I were to upload a list of tax delinquent properties in Salt Lake County. It's where I live. And I started targeting that list. I could tell Facebook, okay, Facebook, take this list, of tax delinquent properties, mine it. So Facebook knows so much about us to a scary extent, because we stay logged in all the time on our computers, on our phones. But for marketers, it's a dream. Facebook will go and mine everything it knows about those people. It will then find the correlations and then go out and find new people, so not from that list, that share those common traits and create what's called a lookalike audience. So you need at least 100 people in a list to create a lookalike audience. Hopefully your lists are much bigger than 100 anyways, or you might have some challenge targeting them consistently. But I typically go after lookalike data almost immediately on lists, depending on my budget, because I can create that lookalike data immediately. If I take a list of 10,000, 5,000 tax delinquent properties, I can create a lookalike on that almost immediately. Then as far as website traffic goes, depending on how much traffic you're pushing to your website, it may take a little bit of time before you can build a lookalike audience off of your retargeting. But that's a great one to use. And then off of engagement, you can build lookalikes. And then I typically look at segmentation over time, which we may not get into too much today. But in a lot of this, you guys, I don't segment that much, meaning I don't create age groups, 25 to 35 and 35 to 55 and 65 to 85, unless I'm in a market where I know that is super relevant. And in the beginning, because what I really want in the beginning is I want a lot of data, because the more data I can collect, the better I can get in the lookalike audiences and in my own adjustments. And then over time, I'll start to test some of that segmentation. Mm-hmm. And I'm actually going to show you guys a couple of ad sets from I'll let you peek behind the curtain and show you actually a couple of ad sets to kind of give you examples of this in just a second. But I wanted to talk through sort of the strategy and structure of it first. Mm-hmm. Okay. So a couple targeting considerations. One of those I already touched on is that, so over here, this is a screenshot of an ad set. And you have this little meter that tells you whether your audience is specific or broad or somewhere in between. If your needle is clear over here, you'll get a little alert from Facebook that says your audience is too narrow or too specific, and it may not work. So that's something to keep an eye on. It's certainly okay and worth testing if you have a small list, but you know that list is really valuable. The data inside of it is really reliable. It's worth going after, but if you're struggling to get good reach, good clicks, good opt-ins, then that's something to consider. And there's a couple ways to get around that, which I'll show you in a minute. One of those is to combine multiple lists together. So if you have an equity list, a probate list, an absentee owner list, the message to each of those you can craft in a way that's going to speak to all of them. So I'll sometimes combine those, or let's say tax delinquent, code violation, economic distress or divorce, those types of lists. Those might fit better together because the message then matches in the ad when I say the message. So that's something to consider. Messy data. When you're uploading to Facebook, this is you need each item that Facebook is going to take in its own column. So I know, because I work with a lot of clients that use ListSource, I know that ListSource, when they give you a list, does not put the first name and the last name in its own separate column on pretty frequently. So it's worth investing in a VA or someone on your team that will take the time to clean that data up. And you can do that in Excel pretty easily with some of the functions and features inside of there. But it's worth the time because it's going to increase your match rate. And I think what that does for you too is it makes you more aware of how you want your data structured. So as you start getting other lists from other sources, that's something to ask about. If you can get them to structure it for you in the right way, then you're going to save yourself a bunch of time. Okay. The other thing is geography. So let's think about geography in custom and lookalike data. If you have a custom list, it doesn't make a lot of sense to put a geographical restriction on that. So let's say, for example, I get let's go back to the tax delinquent. If I get a tax delinquent list for Salt Lake County, and then inside my ad set, I create a geographical restriction, meaning I say only show this ad in Salt Lake City and a 10-mile radius, I may be cutting people off of that list. So I don't put any geographical restrictions on my custom data. And especially if you think about absentee owners or things like that, they may not even live in the same state that the property is in. So if you're trying to target target them based on their home data and on the property data, and you have a geographical restriction, you may be cutting half of your potential targeting off. With lookalike data, that's a different story. Lookalike data will pull people from anywhere you tell Facebook to pull from. So in lookalike data, that's where you'd want to layer in your geography, whether you're doing that by a city and a radius, or by zip code, or by state even.
So that right there, write that down, y'all, because that's one thing that we see with people too, where their campaigns end up costing them too much. Is jot that down, please, because your lookalike audiences, they need to be within the bounds of where you would buy. So set those bounds. But like Kylie was saying, if it's from a list, then don't set the geographical bounds. So we'll see people setting the same geographical bounds for a list versus a lookalike audience quite a bit too. So that's good stuff.
Yeah, I see that all the time. And one other thing, just real quick on that, is Facebook is not perfect, far from it. Which means even if you set geographical restrictions, it's still possible you'll get an opt-in from someone outside of that. And there's a couple ways that can happen. Number one, the location settings that person has. Number two, if Trevor likes something up in Oregon, I'm his Facebook friend. Facebook may decide that that's something I'm interested in too. So it may show it to me down here in Salt Lake City, and then I may opt in. So there's a couple ways that can happen. So if you get opt-ins that are outside of the area, it's not cause for alarm. You know, if you're getting multiple of those, and that's something to dig into for sure. What you can do is you can take the names of those people that are opting in. In Carrot, you can see what source they came from. So, you know, assuming they came linearly from Facebook, you can kind of do some reverse engineering to try to figure out what audience they're coming from and try to lock that down. That's not usually an issue, but I do get that question a lot. Like, you know, hey, I got an opt-in that's like 5 states away. How did that happen? It happens. It happens. Okay. So let's talk about content really quick, and then we'll jump into some examples. I want to make sure we have enough time to look at the examples and walk through question and answer. So content. On the visuals side, these are some of the things that are working the best. Okay, so we have number one, localized homes. It's kind of surprising how difficult it can be to get an investor to just take pictures of every home that they work on or even look at. So if you're closing a bunch of deals, you probably only need photos from the homes you close. If you're not closing that many deals yet, take a picture of every home you go and look at, specifically homes that fit the target of what you want to find, right? So if you've got a home that you're like, oh man, if I could find homes like this all day, every day, you better take a picture of it and use that in your content. And even better yet, you can create what I call an intro or a walkthrough video, where you simply pull out your phone and shoot a quick 30-second, 60-second max video talking about who you are, what you do, the value you provide, and a quick call to action. I'll show you a couple examples of those. So that works really well for closed deals. Using that with a message about having closed on that home works really well. So that's this one here. And we've tested kind of putting like a closed or a little sold banner across the corner of the image. There's not enough data to say whether that works better than just posting the image with the text that says that you recently closed on the deal. But a couple of things we have noticed is put information in there that is relevant to other motivated sellers. So if you closed a home closed on a home in a neighborhood that is one of your target neighborhoods for your cash buyers, right? A good investor, I think, is always understanding what their cash buyers want and what neighborhoods they're interested in. So if you have a home in one of those neighborhoods, highlight that. We just bought this home in the south end of the Salt Lake Valley, and it was in probate. And so you want to kind of focus on the things that are going to be meaningful to other motivated sellers. Next would be testimonial videos. I can't overstate the importance of this one enough. You've got to ask on every deal you close for a testimonial video. And I think a lot of investors, we tend to overthink this and think it needs to be a really highly produced video. It really doesn't. I mean, 15 to 30 seconds. If I had just closed a home with Trevor and we're at the closing office, I'd basically just say, "Hey, Trevor, assuming we had a good transaction together, I'd say, "Hey, Trevor, would you mind just for 15, 30 seconds saying how it was to work with us and whether you'd recommend other people work with us?" Record it.
Mm-hmm. And the thing about that too, like, I'm sorry to talk over there. The thing about that too, a lot of people kind of pressure themselves with, like you said, having to have this amazingly professional photo or video. But if you think about what Facebook is, right? Facebook is a place where people are going to see what their friends are doing and stuff. So oftentimes the quality of those videos is someone taking a video with their cell phone. So it's like directly within what you would expect on Facebook. It's natural, all that.
The rise in popularity of Facebook Live video has really shifted consumers' expectations for video content. So unless you're a brand like Red Bull or something that's producing amazing content all the time, people don't expect really highly produced content because I'd have to go and grab the data, but I read recently it's something crazy like 1 in 4 or 1 in 5 of every single videos consumed on Facebook is a live video. So that level of quality is what people are used to. So that's something I think is a mistake. People overthink that, the testimonial videos or the intro videos. The other big mistake is they're just too long. They're too long. So number one, if it's longer than 60 seconds, you can't run it on Instagram. So, that right there should be your first cutoff. Don't make it longer than 60 seconds. Or if it's longer than 60 seconds, you've got to make another one or edit that one if you want it to also run on Instagram. And number two, you want these things to be easily consumable. So long form video content only works if it's number one, like really great produced, or you've got a phenomenal story to tell and you're continually providing value. So if you're talking about what you do as a business and you're going on for 3-4 minutes, it's going to be hard to keep people engaged. You need 15, 30 seconds max. And you can record multiples of these and test them. I encourage all of my clients to record different videos based on scenarios. So if you're out at a property that was in probate, talk about how you can help people in probate. If you're out at a property that needs major repairs or had some fire damage or whatever, talk about how you can help people that have a home that they don't want to repair. And then you can use those when you're targeting those people specifically. All right. The other one that's working really well is cinemagraphs. This is a style of video that almost looks like a still image, but there's just a small piece of the image that is moving. So it's actually a video. And it's interesting, the psychology behind it is people will stop their scroll on Facebook, and sometimes they're not even sure why they stopped their scroll, because their subconscious notices the video moving, their conscious mind doesn't at first. And then slideshows. So if you don't have any of these videos, you can start with slideshows, which will create a video. And the reason video is so important, you guys, is Facebook gives preference to video. Well, Facebook gives preference to ads that are performing, but Facebook also primarily gives preference to video. So video, you need video. And if you don't have any of these other videos shot, then do a slideshow of deals you've closed on, or do a slideshow of homes you're looking at. And then the last thing I'll say is still imagery is not dead. Good still imagery still works. The best ones are localized homes or closed deals. I found as far as stock imagery goes, if the stock image has people in it, in my tests, it is actually performs more poorly than stock imagery without people. And I think that speaks to the authenticity that people crave on Facebook. Okay. Quick couple notes on content, and then we'll jump into some examples. Number one, think mobile first. So when you're creating your ad in Ads Manager or Power Editor, you can change the view of whether you're looking at how it's going to look in mobile or on desktop. Think mobile first. 80 to 90% of your traffic will probably be mobile on your ads. It's just how people use Facebook. Make sure that the copy is customized to the audience. If it's a tax delinquent audience, speak to them. If it's a retargeting audience, speak to them. Call to actions. We've tested hundreds of these. Some of the simple ones still work the best. Sell your house for cash. We buy homes as is. Sell your house in 7 days. So again, this is customized to the audience and to the overall message. All right, let's jump into a couple of the examples quick. Let me pull those up here. Okay, so the first thing we're going to look at is an ad set that is custom data. So this is some lists. This is one of my clients down in Florida. And here we are targeting an equity list, a probate list, and a vacant list. So you can see we've got a nice audience definition in here. We don't have any geographical or age targeting because this is custom lists. And then the ad that we were running for this one was this video here. So this is kind of a flyover video. And I actually think this is Miami. But this is one of the stock videos that I have been using for a long time and continues to work really well.
So where do you get stock videos like that if people want to use them?
So I get my stuff from Adobe Stock or iStock, in two of the ones that I get them from.
I'm typing down the resources, guys and gals, so we'll have them in a resource section for this module for everyone watching this live or the recording. So we'll be getting these for you. So that was Adobe
Stock, iStock, and then I think that's where I've gotten most of them. One mistake I made that you guys can avoid is when you're buying these, make sure that you buy them in the resolution and size that will work for both Facebook and Instagram. So I'd have to pull the exact data on that. A quick Google search could do that for you. Basically, the resolution and the size of the video, just make sure that it's high enough that it'll work on both.
Cool. And I'm taking some notes. If we can do this right after this call, if you can get me those resolutions after the call, we'll put them in the notes for this too.
Yep.
Should be sweet. Cool.
Yep. You bet. All right. So let's jump into another example here. This is a retargeting ad set. So we're targeting the website. This is my custom audience here. Website 180 is just what I call it. This is basically anyone that's been to the website in the last 180 days. And then as you can see, we're also retargeting everything from the ads that we run. And I'll show you the ad here. So this is AJ, really phenomenal guy. He's a Carrot customer out in Huntsville, Alabama. And this is a testimonial video that he shot. The only criticism I have of this video is that had he turned his phone sideways, he would have gotten rid of these gray bars, but not a huge deal. Again, people are used to seeing this raw video. One thing that's really important when you're uploading your video in Ads Manager, you have an option on captions. Always, always, always turn captions on, because by default, your video is muted. So you want captions on there. And if you look at like some of the best clickbait and content marketers out there, like always have captions running on their videos. In fact, a lot of them are now switching over to like not having any text, or excuse me, any voice when they're telling a story. It's like music and captions. So make sure you have captions turned on. The Facebook review option actually works pretty well. So that's the one that they say can take up to 24 hours. Totally worth it, because for me personally, typing out captions during a video is like poking needles in my eye. So I just don't like taking the time to do it. If you've got a VA or something, you know, they could do it for you, but I just let Facebook review it and do it. It's a pretty cool service that they offer. Now, the nice thing about this type of content here is this can go on your page as well. So you should, any testimonial video, you should be putting on your Facebook page, in your ads, and on your Carrot site. So your testimonial video now has a threefold value. And the same goes with your intro or your walkthrough videos.
So like with this ad here, Kylie, and you may be going over this later. So someone sets this up, the ad copy up top. Do you have any specific strategies on the ad copy up top versus ad copy down below?
Yeah, with testimonial videos specifically, I like to pull out something that they said from the video, and then a quick note here. So this one didn't talk much. This is a retargeting ad, so I kept the message fairly broad. You know, I just if you want to sell your house but don't want to deal with repairs or realtors contact us. So up here is where I do most of the customization. So if it is a tax delinquent ad, for example, I might say something like, "We buy homes for cash, even if you're behind on taxes, or the home needs major repairs, etc." So I'll put something that's specific to the situation. The call to action is a little trickier again, because I want it optimized for mobile. So if it gets too long, then it gets a little clunky for mobile. So we buy homes for cash, still looking to sell your home quickly and easily. Down here, I actually pulled this piece of text from a Carrot website. Check out how our process works. We're ready to give you a fair offer for your house. This in the newsfeed link description has worked well. The other one that works well is no realtors, no fees, no stress. So that's just a little added kind of benefits section there. And then contact us has seemed to be the best call to action that we've tested. Or learn more. They're kind of 50-50 on the contact us or learn more. Sign up or things like that have not driven as the same results.
And then with these, you're driving directly to the Carrot site and just the homepage, I'm assuming, right?
Yep.
Cool.
Yep. Exactly. Okay. Here is, let's jump in this one. So this is a lookalike. So this is a client down in Florida again. And here I took their, what they call their unknown equity list, and I created a lookalike. This is actually a lead form ad. So this is a lead gen ad. So here you can see the lookalike audience. I'm using a 1%, which is always my standard on lookalike. Again, I don't get into a lot of segmentation of like, with the lookalike, you can get crazy of 1%, 2%, 3%. You can do a range between 3 and 5%. I don't start messing with that until this stops working. But if I can get a nice 1% match of unknown equity or whatever the list is, and then here you see my geographic restriction. I did bump the age up to 25. So instead of 18, bumped it up to 25. And that's my targeting there. I'll show you what that ad looks like.
Then after you show the
ad, here you go.
Sweet. So we got that. And then after you show the ad, dive into some, if you're game, dive into some of the more specifics on what you're paying with the, you know, what your daily budget is, what you started out on, how you kind of hone it in. And if there's any stats from this particular ad, because this has a lot of engagement. So I'd be kind of curious to see how this one's performing.
Yeah, let's see. I can tell you. So this ad right here, well, we can we can go back and take a look at it. But yeah, so this is a still image ad, which, like I said, still imagery is not dead. One of the reasons this ad is working well is because it's been running for a long time, and you can see it's got a bunch of engagement on it. So it's like 176. It's got comments, some garbage comments, some good comments, and I'll kind of touch on comments here in a second if we have time. Because I did want to show you. I'll come back to this ad set, but I did just want to show you one other type of ad, which is the Cinemagraph. So if someone's scrolling in their mobile news feed, if you really closely, it's the trees.
Mm-hmm. That was one thing at the mastermind shoot. I think it was in Nashville. You were mentioning that, and some other guys I've been talking to lately too mentioned Cinemagraphs are working great. And it's funny. I've seen on some big websites lately that drive a lot of traffic. I've seen them changing their hero image to a Cinemagraph. You know, where like the clouds are moving across the sky really slowly. And so how can people create a Cinemagraph? Like, how does that happen? And also, can you kind of mention why it works? So just kind of throw that at people. A Cinemagraph looks like a still photo, but then as you're scrolling, there's some things that move so it grabs the eye.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a subconscious, it's kind of a psychological hack. People are scrolling in their Facebook and their subconscious will see these trees moving. So they stop scrolling. Their conscious mind doesn't kind of register it at first. And then, you know, typically they'll notice like, hold on a second, this is a video, like what's going on here? So it forces them to kind of take a second and look at it and try to figure it out. And that's really your first goal, is to just capture people's attention, right? So that's the benefit of the Cinemagraph, is it stops the scroll. There's a couple ways you can get these. Number one, some of your stock imagery sites will have them. So you can search like Cinemagraph and they'll have them. Number two, so to create a true Cinemagraph, this is getting a little nerdy, is actually not a video like this. But because we're working with homes, it makes Cinemagraphs actually pretty pretty easy. Like if you kind of have seen some of the other really incredible Cinemagraphs, it's people that are like jumping over water and they're like still, but the water's moving, which those are a lot more difficult to make. They take some technical expertise and some time. But if you wanted to create a Cinemagraph, just get your camera and a tripod, because you need it steady, and go film a house that has something that's in the video that's moving, because the house isn't going anywhere. So you have your still object like built in. So we've done this with a lot of houses. Sometimes it's the trees moving. Sometimes it's like a flag in the front of the home, and that one's a little more obvious. But yeah, you can shoot them on your own, or you can get them from a stock site. So let's jump back, because Trevor was asking about this one. And this one, just for those of you that are looking and going, hold on a second, this is off. The reason this is off is the acquisitions manager for this particular client is on a big Asian tour trip. So he comes back on the 17th. So that's why everything's off right now. As far as budgeting goes, I approach budgeting in two ways. Number one, I kind of take a look at how much someone wants to spend per month. And that per month budget is, if they don't know it, then I'll typically point them towards Carrot's their ROI calculator to kind of give them a good start of how much they think they ought to start with spending on Facebook. And then I take what kind of potential audiences we have available. So if you have a bunch of different lists, then what you've got to decide is how you're going to spread your budget across those lists. I like to spend at least $5 to $10 a day on any ad set. So if I have too many audiences that essentially, if I were to spread my budget across all of them, I wouldn't be able to hit that $5 to $10 range, then I'll make some decisions on which ones I want to target that month. And then that budget I'll either increase or decrease based on performance. So you can see this one's now up to a $35 daily budget because it was performing well. Not only the lead, the opt-ins, so we were paying $86 a lead, but the quality of the lead too. So this is something that's important, is whoever's running your Facebook, whether you're doing it internally or however you're doing it, you'll want to have a nice line of communication between quality of lead and the Facebook ads, because the cost per lead is totally relative. You know, if I'm getting $5 a lead and I'm getting a month, you know, that on the surface seems phenomenal. But if I'm not closing them, or if it's too many leads for my team to handle, so we're letting a lot of leads slip through the cracks, then it doesn't really matter. If I'm paying $86 a lead and I'm closing 1 in 10 or 1 in 20, and my average deal value is 15 to 20K, then sweet. You know, we're still going to work to try to get that cost per lead down, but we know that the ROI is there.
And that's one thing I want people to realize. There's like a monsoon coming through. I'm looking out the window. It's like pelting down rain. It's crazy. That's one thing I want people to really wrap their heads around too, is so these lead numbers, these are real numbers. You look on that screen with this particular client, and you know, they close lots of deals from Facebook, Google, pay-per-click, all kinds of stuff, direct mail. So about $30,000 spent in those campaigns. And I mean, if you were to scroll down, you could add up all the leads in that results column. It's a lot, but at the end of the day, it comes down to the cost per lead. And I've done so many webinars on this. I've done podcasts on this. We've got the ROI calculator. Kind of one way that this isn't scientific, but I just want to toss this out to people to wrap your minds around your target cost per lead, is I've started to go with max cost per lead. Because what ended up happening was, even with the ROI calculator, you'd put those numbers in there, and then people would be like, yeah, cool. So it shows the ROI, but at the end of the day, how much should I be spending for a lead? How much should I be spending before I stop marketing, kind of thing? That ROI calculator shows that, but still people wouldn't wrap their minds around it. So what I do now is you do average profit per deal, so APD. So let's go with the $20,000. How many leads does it take you to get that? So let's just go with 20. Let's say it takes you 20, right? So $20,000, and that's 20 leads to get that $20,000 deal. And then you go, okay, what would I be willing to trade? What would I be willing to trade in order to make the $20,000? So then that's kind of your gut, right? Then you can start, we'll go, I don't know, 1,000. Well, shoot, would you trade 5,000 for 20? I know I would. You start to go up, you probably wouldn't trade 18 for 20 because the risk profile gets too good there unless you were 100% guaranteed to get it. So in that circumstance, you'd probably trade $5,000 or so for a $20,000 profit. And then what I do is I take that number that you would trade, divide it by how many leads it would take to get that. So $5,000. And like I said, this is not scientific. I've never seen anyone calculate it this way, but it's helped so many people wrap their minds around what they should do for their max cost per lead. That equals $250. So in that circumstance, your max cost per lead that you would pay in that circumstance, assuming $20,000 profit per deal, and you wouldn't want to pay more than 5 to get a deal like that, is $250 per lead. So you can go at that, and you can spend up to $250 per lead as long as you're closing at least 1 in 20 or better, and as long as you're profiting at least $20,000 or better, and you can outspend your market. And as you're seeing here, all these numbers that Kylie's got, 80, 86, 87, 108. You can keep on going down, but the average is probably in that 70, 80 range. You know, it's like you can keep crushing it, and you could even scale up and pay more than that and still do insanely well. So make sure you guys are really getting your budget down, so you're not getting in there, putting some dollars in there, getting leads at $150 a lead and thinking that's not going to work for you. When in actuality, in this circumstance, $250 a lead would crush it for you. So you need to get your psychology right.
Yeah, great point, Trevor. And that kind of leads me perfectly into what I call the difference makers. So, because I know we're a little kind of need to wrap up here in a minute, but I want to leave some time for questions. One of the questions I get a lot from people is what is the difference between a successful investor on Facebook and an unsuccessful investor on Facebook? And these are the main things I've kind of pulled out, right? So the first one is patience. And I probably should have added to patience a good knowledge of what that means based on, Trevor, what you were just saying. So what I mean by patience is the ability to let Facebook unfold. And there's a couple things to consider. Number one, Facebook does take some time to build momentum. When you first get going, you likely won't have much data for lookalike audiences outside of your list. So, and your retargeting audience might be really small too. So, which retargeting ends up being one of the most successful ad sets in any client over time. This client that we were just looking at, when I first started working with them, we were maybe pulling 10 to 12 leads a month through Facebook. Now we're pulling anywhere from 35 to 60 leads a month through Facebook. Now the budget has increased some since then, so there's some element of that, but the rest is that digital ecosystem just pumping over time. So you've got to know what your max cost per lead is. And I also think you need at least 90 days of patience. So here's a gut check question I always kind of give my clients. I say, okay, if you were to try Facebook for 90 days at whatever you think your monthly budget should be, and it takes 90 to 120 days to close your first deal, are you looking at your bank account and freaking out? You know, and if the answer to that question is yes, then you probably need to pull yourself back for a minute and say, okay, you got some questions to ask yourself, right? The other one is persistent and consistent follow-up. So and this is true across industries. This is not just true for real estate investment, but people don't get on Facebook typically looking for these types of ads, right? The benefit of Facebook is people are hanging out and we catch them with something that piques their interest. So the difference between that and say a PPC lead of someone who's actively searching is their interest in talking right then is going to be different, right? And Facebook is going to pull people at varying levels of the funnel. So persistent and consistent follow-up is massively important. I mean, that's some of you are probably looking at that and going, yeah, that's the key to be just a successful investor in general, but especially for Facebook. The other one is content generation. If you are worried about making videos, you've got to somehow get yourself over that, or you've got to get someone on your team that can help you. Take photos of the homes you're looking at, shoot videos, customer testimonials, videos of yourself, etc. Number 3 is website quality. So I haven't found a type of website that converts better than Investor Carrot through all the clients that I work with, but I have found that those who take a little bit of time to customize their website, to add testimonials, to add a company or an About Us page with some actual relevant data on it, those people have a higher conversion rate. So if you're spending money on pushing traffic to your website, make sure that you've taken a little bit of time to make your website as high quality as possible. The other one is fresh data. Make sure that you're targeting fresh data. So if you're sending out a new batch of mailers to a new list, you should be running ads to those people at the same time. Right when it's nice and fresh. They get the postcard in the mail, then they see you online. Again, it's that ecosystem. And now you're bridging the gap between offline and online. And then I don't know what number I'm on here. Engagement. Make sure that there's someone on your team watching for comments on your ads or messages in your Facebook inbox. I've seen a lot of investors close deals through Facebook Messenger. So someone sees your ad and rather than going to your website, they just come to your Facebook page and they message you. So you got to be watching that. You can set up like some basic automated responses inside of Messenger to tell people that you'll be in touch with them soon, or to try to send them to your website. But if someone chooses to go to Messenger, that means that's how they're comfortable. So, engage with them there. And there's a couple easy ways to keep track of your notifications, either on desktop or download the Facebook Pages app on your phone, Pages Manager, and you can manage the engagement there. Watch for comments on ads. Those will lead to conversations. That also gives you the ability, look, it's the internet. People are weird on the internet, so you're going to get some negative comments on your stuff. You can either use that as an opportunity to engage in conversation, or you can just simply delete and hide the comment. And then the last one is test and optimize. So Facebook is ever evolving, and your data will be too. So test and optimize. Try different images. Facebook now has the dynamic content test ability, which is awesome. It's at the ad set level. So when you're creating your ad set, you can toggle on dynamic content, and that will allow you to test multiple ads inside of an ad set better than it ever has been before. For a longtime Facebook marketer like me, this has been like #1 on my list of requests for a really long time. So this is a super exciting development. And keep track of what you're testing, and so that you can optimize. And those are kind of the key difference makers that I see across the board when working with people. And I think that's probably a good segue into questions, Trevor, if we have time.
Dude, yeah, it's definitely a good segue. And I've got some questions here, and I want to kind of bring up some thoughts that I've got. So if you guys have questions specifically, if you want us to, heck, if you want us to look at ads, like send the ads to me through the little questions panel, like your pictures of them, and we can critique them if you guys want to. If you want to see any type of targeting settings that you want to get more clear on, if you want to get more clear on any part of the process, on ideating your ads, on how to set things up, on your budget, on targeting, on the actual ads, and where you send them afterwards, let me know. But there are some good questions. So one thing I want to kind of double down on what you were mentioning about engaging in the ads. So this is a mistake that I made, honestly, a little while back. Was we were just kind of launching Facebook ads, and we would just kind of let them roll. And in general, some ads you'll get some comments on them, and some ads you won't get a whole lot of comments on them, And we'll find some ads that will just get a lot of engagement. For us here, let's say as Carrot, a company, there's a couple ads that just get a ton of engagement. And so this is probably in the last month or so, we've started to really engage a lot more intentionally. We were always engaging before, but it might have been like 3 weeks after someone made the comment, because we would then go check on something. But now we're engaging like the same day, sometimes within minutes or hours. And what we're finding, and this will segue to probably an answer here in a little bit that someone asked a question on, is the engagement in that ad was like giving more boost to the ad, because Google is looking at it as like, man, this must be better. So there's a lot more engagement. It was getting it in front of more people, making our click costs and conversion costs lower. Another thing that you were mentioning too, actually converting people in there. We had a person who come through, dude, it's so funny. Tom Kroll is calling me literally this second as we were looking at some of their stuff. One sec, it's blowing up in my ear. So one thing we found too is literally last week, we converted a person from the ad that was commenting into a client of ours. So it is really important you do that. And I think one reason to do that is credibility. As people are going through and they see your ad, if they see a bunch of comments in there, that you're not addressing the comment and showing that you're a real person, then they start to look at that as a negative credibility factor. So is this person real? If there's one or two negative things in there, all of a sudden it makes the whole rest of the ad negative. So you got to really combat it with going in there and engaging with people, which is a biggie.
Yeah, I agree, Trevor. And one thing I'll add to that is, that makes Facebook unique as compared to PPC or something like that, is it is a social platform. So if you're not ready to go, I guess for lack of a better word, all in on making sure that you're engaging with people, that you're coming up with authentic content, you've got to really think, is Facebook the right channel for you next? Because it's not going to work just as an ad platform. And that is especially, I think, going to be true this year. Facebook just sent out a big, Mark Zuckerberg just sent out a big announcement that they're going to be making some changes to the way the newsfeed works on Facebook to show more organic content from friends and family to people, which is something that they kind of cut back on in previous years. So it still remains to be seen a little bit of how that's going to impact the paid side. I've worked through several of these big shifts, so I think There'll be some changes coming, but what I think will be even more relevant, it always has been, but I think it will come back to center stage a little bit more, is the relevance of good, authentic content. So those three things, I try to give you guys three easy things that will allow you to do that. That's the testimonial videos, the intro or walkthrough videos, and then the properties that you're actually, closing on. That'll allow you to have content that people engage on. And Facebook uses an algorithm to decide how your ads get delivered, and engagement is absolutely one of those components.
And Ellie asked the question a little bit ago about Zuckerberg's announcement a little bit ago, and Kylie mentioned some things, and I'm with you on that, man. You have a lot more data than I do on it, but I kind of read his statements pretty good, and I went out there and looked at other things, and they're very clear about what they're wanting to eliminate. And they even said kind of the clickbaity news story type stuff. Like if you look at the election this last year, all the stuff that, why probably a lot of people stopped using Facebook during that phase of their life was there was all these news stories, and there's crazy news stories here and there. They fill up your timeline, they fill up your news feed. This news story would end up getting injected in my news feed. It's a BuzzFeed thing that's getting shared everywhere by friends. It's stuff like that that Zuckerberg mentioned specifically in there, that it was like mainly just a time waster. It was something that grabbed someone because it had a clickbaity title. They went over and they wasted time, and they weren't actually engaging in building fellowship with people on there. So the more that you can make your ads and your Facebook page engage with people, get people to comment below on certain things. You're doing a renovation, post pictures of two different types of countertops. Hey, which countertop should we pick in this renovation? And have people, A or B, what's your opinion? Comment below, kind of things like that. Get them to engage. And same thing, if there's any way you can get them to engage in the comments section of your ads, and or you engage in there, that's great too. And that's a good example. It kind of hit me as we were going through looking at the ad, those ads that we've got that are getting a lot of engagement, 60, 70 plus comments, and they're legit. Half the comments are our clients saying, Carrot's amazing, and sharing their results. The other third are people saying, does Carrot really work this well? Then our clients piling in there and saying it does. Here's my results. And then there's some from us engaging back. So it's like that ad is just going to get more legs with the new changes likely moving forward, is kind of my uneducated prediction.
Yeah. No, I think you're right, Trevor. A lot of this is born out of the criticism Facebook took for the news stuff. So, I think that's going to be their primary target. It'll certainly have some impact on businesses. But the other thing I want to add too is there aren't, for the number of real estate investors that exist in the US, there aren't a lot of them that are actively trying to build and maintain a brand. And so if you're doing that, it's going to set you apart, not only in the short term, but in the long term. So when the economy turns, which it eventually will do to some degree, the more that you've built up a recognizable name and engagement and things like that, it's going to be a long-term value for you. So, and Facebook really provides that opportunity. I mean, again, it's a social platform. It's built for conversations and engagement. And because of that, it's become this phenomenal paid advertising platform too. If you can marry the two together, then you're in a really good spot.
Mm-hmm. So a couple more questions here. And some really good ones here. So Mr. Blevins, what's up, man? Says, what about messenger bots? You guys doing any testing with messenger bots or engagement there, collecting information? Because I know a lot of people are doing things where it's like, hey, comment this word below, and it puts them into the messenger bot sequence, or there's some other things. You guys doing anything with that, or do you see validity in it in the future for sellers in specific?
Yeah, great question. So the answer to the first part is yes, we do. We are testing some stuff with messenger bots. We have a couple clients we're doing that with. So Facebook has some very basic stuff you can build internally. And if I were to predict, I think eventually Facebook will either buy one of the best third parties or they'll just build it out themselves. But there are a lot of third parties you can use and for free or cheap. And I think messenger bots are awesome if you are actually then going to work that lead through Messenger, or you send them somewhere that doesn't kind of restart the process for them. So that's part of the challenge, right? So let's say someone jumps into your Facebook Messenger and says, hey, I'm looking for more information. And your thing kicks back and says, do you have a home to sell? And they click yes. And you say, great, please go to our website and fill out a form. What you've done in that point is that may work, but what you've done is you've kind of pushed them out of the conversation, right? So that's something to consider. In the retail world, messenger bots work phenomenal. I've seen in e-commerce, but with real estate, just be careful about where you're pushing that conversation. And if you think about it too, you've got one of the things I hear from investors is like, man, I just wish I could get more people on the phone, right? So that person is messaging you in real time. So my preference would be to message that person back in real time and try to get on the phone with them. Now, if I definitely recommend that you have some kind of autoresponder on your messenger, if you're not in a space personally, or you don't have someone on your team that can respond to those really quickly. And then definitely test the messenger automations. I don't have enough data yet to tell you what questions work best or whatever, but we are currently doing that. We're running ads to Messenger as well. Those so far are not working as well as the other ad types, but we are testing that.
And the Messenger stuff is interesting, right? Because it's working insanely well. Like we've got a lot of people that we're working with, or in my mastermind, a different one that I'm in, where they're crushing with messenger bots, but it's outside of real estate investing as an example, where it's a lot easier to be talking about fitness as an example, or travel, or leads, or whatever it is, and say, hey, if you're interested in getting this guide that I've got, that's going to walk you through these really cool things, just say Facebook down below and I'll send it to you, or something like that. So it's really easy for that kind of low resistance, get the freebie, get the cool thing, or get the information about a special event. We can automate it to you. It's definitely got to take some more finesse to use a messenger bot in an ad, or even an organic post, to motivate a seller to post something down there. Because like, what would they post? Offer maybe, and we'll get you an offer, which that could work. That could be something that you could test and see if they do that. I could also see it really derailing and people putting a bunch of other stuff in there, and it kind of derails the whole combo and whatever it is. So yeah, I mean, I think the messenger bots are amazing for giving a low resistance freebie away. It's going to be a little bit higher, a little bit harder for actually making an offer on a house possibly, but not saying it won't work. You just got to put more testing into it.
Right.
Couple more questions.
I think, Trevor, I just want to add,
yeah.
Can I just add one more thing there? As you think about it, what you want people to do is opt in, right? You want their information. When someone clicks into Messenger, there's some feeling of like, I've already opted in a little bit, right? So to have them then have to re-opt in somewhere else, I think that's a theory. But that's kind of what I think is happening there, where, like you said, if I'm giving away a guide, then, they say Facebook and that guide goes right to them. Or if I'm in e-commerce and I say, do you want a discount? And they say yes, and I give them the discount, well, then they go shopping, right? But in the real estate world, I'm kind of asking them to opt in twice. You just have to be careful about that.
So some questions on ad stuff from Ellie. Ellie says, we've skip traced several lists. Can you show us how we can target these folks on Facebook? So I know we've got a blog post on how to set up custom audiences and stuff, but is there enough time to kind of just show the basics of where you would go inside of the ad manager and how you would upload a list like that?
Yeah, hold on a second. Let me share my screen again.
Cool.
All right, let's see here. Well, let's actually do this. Hold on one second, guys. So I probably did that a little fast. If you're in your ads manager, this right here is your menu. And that'll open up all your options. So down here, go to all tools. That should open everything up for you. Under assets, you have audiences. So I'm going to come into audiences. This is one of my master accounts. So there's a lot of stuff in here already. So I would just come here to create audience, which is going to give me this drop down. It tells me I can either create a custom or a lookalike audience. If you're uploading a list, that's a custom audience. So I'm going to click on custom audience. And then it gives you some options. Is it a customer file, website traffic, app activity, offline activity, or engagement? This is a file. So now I can either add customers from my own file, or I can import from MailChimp. So I'm going to add customers from my own file. And then you're going to do one of two things. You're either going to upload the file, paste it right into here. So these are, again, these are the things that it can take. You can see up here: email, phone number, first name, last name, zip, city, state, year of birth, gender, age, Facebook app user ID. So I'm going to make sure that each of those is in its own column in Excel. And then I'm either going to copy and paste it, or I'm going to add it through a CSV, or I guess a TXT. I typically use CSVs. And then I'd name that audience, skip, traced, or whatever. It's not going to let me click next because I'm not actually putting any data in there. And then you'd click next, and then it would take you, after you click that, it would re-put you on this screen. You'd see that list up here. And in the beginning, it's going to say size populating or too small, because it just hasn't had time to go out and match that data. But that's how you do it. And then, if you're skip tracing, of course, you just want to make sure there's a column with phone number in the column.
Sweet. Easy as that, man. And there's another couple targeting questions in here. There's one from, from Michael, and says, question: I'm running retargeting ad from previous website visitors, but do I have to upload a new retargeting list to reach new visitors every so often, or does it automatically retarget new and old website visitors each day?
Okay, so good question. That depends on two things. Number one, the way you have your pixel on the site. So assuming you're a Carrot customer, I'm gonna jump into, oh, you know what? I've got it right here. Okay, so this is kind of a dummy site I have here in Carrot. In the dashboard, there's a settings option, and then analytics and scripts. So make sure that you're putting your Facebook code, pixel code, in the head script. That's based on Facebook's instructions on how to do that. If you've got that in there, then it will be tracking everyone that comes to the site that lands on any page. Okay, so then the other part of your question would be area that you have in place for, all right, hold on one second. I'm going to create an audience right now, maybe a retargeting audience. Because the other consideration is what parameters you've told the Facebook to look for. So let's jump into audiences. I'm going to build a custom audience. This is website traffic now. Okay, so there's a lot of things here, but I'm just going to keep it with, I want all website visitors, right? So you can segment based on specific pages, how much time they spent, but I'm going to do all website visitors, and you can see the maximum time is 180 days. So if you set that to 180 days, what you're telling Facebook is you want to keep retargeting anyone that has been to the website in the last 180 days. All right, and then I'd name my audience, website traffic retargeting. This is just me personally, I like to put the parameter I had on that. And then I'd hit create audience, and then it would start populating.
So is there any specific, and I'm asking this just to give context for everyone listening, is there anything specific about the 180 days that you pick that number versus something longer or shorter?
No, it's all about size. So the reason I do that is because the typical real estate investor website doesn't have like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people coming to the site every day. So I want that audience to be big. And then the other thing is just the amount of time that people take, I think, to make the final decision of what they're going to do with their home. So, well, you know, if I'm talking e-commerce, which I run e-commerce and still help with some occasionally, you know, we're running stuff based off of 2 days, 7 days, 30 days, et cetera. And that's all, it's all about the buying psychology, or I guess in this case, the opt-in psychology of the person. So, but that's why I put 180 in the title of the audience, because if I have a website that has enough people to target off of 30 days or 14 days, then I'll do that as well. But I want to test those audiences against each other.
Mm-hmm. And that is an important thing I want to just kind of reiterate for people, is that whole time frame, right? Because you'll be working with a lot of sellers, and like Kylie said, is maybe they're exploring right now, and then they come back and they're actually going to make that decision in 3 months or 4 months or 5 months or 6 months. And we have a lot of clients too that take those leads that they got and that were quote unquote dead leads, and they'll text broadcast them or phone, pick up the phone and call them 6 months later, and they'll close deals from those every single time. So just kind of make that a part of your overall strategy, that you've got that follow-up strategy after you're driving traffic there. How do you then make sure you're in front of those people and giving them opportunity to work with you when they're ready to make that decision, whether it's today, next week, or 6 months from now. And in that way too, all of your stuff works together. Your ads are rolling for 6 months for those people, that you're going to be calling those dead leads or voice broadcasting or text messaging them in 6 months. Your whole strategy works together.
Yeah. Perfect.
Sweet. Some more questions here. Facebook lead form ads versus sending them to the Carrot site. So that's something Tom Caffarello, one of our clients, he was on a coaching call a couple months ago, and he's pulling in, lots of leads, tons and tons of leads. So just on his Carrot site alone, on a weekly basis, this is only online opt-ins. This doesn't include phone call leads, and he's got a huge budget, and he's able to spend more per lead than everyone else because of his business model. He owns a brokerage of 200 plus agents, the largest buyer in all of Boston, and he's everywhere. So he's probably spending upward of $150 to $250 per lead sometimes in his market on Facebook. So he drove like 114 leads that week, and it's pretty consistent. Online leads, out on the phone call leads, pushing 130, 150. And he was also getting another several dozen lead form leads as well. So where does lead forms go in the mix for you, if anything? What's your experience with them as far as results versus just sending them directly to the site?
Yeah, good question. So a couple notes on lead forms. Facebook likes lead forms because it keeps people on the platform. So the cost per lead on a lead form is actually oftentimes lower than the cost of a website lead. The difference I've seen is quality. So the quality of a website lead on the average tends to be higher than the quality of a lead gen lead. That being said, the right recipe that I find typically tends to be a combination of both. So, and there are a lot of factors I'll look at, which is lead volume. So, because you can retarget those lead gen, right? Or you can build lookalike data off of that lead gen. So, the other thing I'll add on lead forms is some of that data will pre-populate or auto-populate. So name, email, phone number, et cetera. If someone opens the lead form, that info will auto-populate. And I think that's part of the reason the quality of the lead actually is a little less, is because it just requires less effort. It's really easy to submit that, where Investor Carrot has done these tests on the two-step opt-in and how that increases the quality. And so the lead gen forms don't have that. I have found, though, that adding a custom question or two will increase your quality of lead on those. So because the custom questions can't be auto-populated. So for example, asking about their motivation, how quickly they want to sell, or asking them about the condition of the property or something like that, that requires them to opt in, or excuse me, requires them to actually put in some information, will increase your quality of lead. And then the other really important thing is you've got to have some kind of automation set up on those lead gen leads. Otherwise, they'll just sit in Facebook. So Facebook does not currently have a built-in automation that like sends you an email or tells you what's going on with that lead. So I use Zapier to email, and then Zapier integrates really well with like InvestorFuse, which is Podio. It integrates with some of the other CRMs, so you can push those leads straight there.
And same thing with Carrot. If you guys are using our lead manager, you can push them into Carrot from lead forms too through Zapier. And with that, so kind of double down on what Kylie was saying on driving them to the websites. There's a whole host of reasons that a website can give you an advantage with that lead. So there's a couple things. If someone fills out a lead form, not saying they're not high quality, but they don't have the chance of going to your website and browsing around and seeing your testimonials and learning about you and going to your about page and seeing that you're a real person and really building that credibility profile. So they're probably mainly looking for the dollars. They're mainly looking for, are they going to give me a higher offer? Things like that. You got to follow up insanely fast on those. You're going to be really competing for price unless you can find a way when you're calling them on the phone and talking to them in person to really differentiate yourself. So that's a biggie there, is once you get them over to the site, you can wrap them in your credibility profile. Hey, we're a real company. Go to our about page and here's us. And here's these great testimonies of people that we've worked with. You can craft the whole experience for them. And like you was mentioning, once you get them over there, you ping them with your pixel, your Facebook pixel, and they can retarget them back. So a whole bunch of reasons that we have found too that works better, but not saying that there's not a spot for lead forms if you guys can make them work great.
Yeah, and that I agree 100%, Trevor. I'm just going to add really quickly. I don't think lead forms should ever be a substitute for a website. I get that question a lot. Do I need a website? Yeah, you need a website. You need a really good website. And I typically use lead forms as a way to get traction and to get attention, but often it's the retargeting through the website of those lead forms that ends up being what ultimately pulls in the quality lead.
So there's a couple other questions here, basic ones, but I kind of want to just do a quick recap here. So the strategy behind your ads is critical. We're going to be giving you guys these slides. Of course, if you're in the Market Leaders Revealed training, you're going to be able to access that training portal. You'll get this replay, you'll get the slides, you'll get the execution plan worksheet that we're working up for all these modules. Here as we go, we're going to be putting them in here shortly. So you can have one sheet that says, here's what you execute from this call. If you don't have time to watch the call, those are coming. And you're going to get the resources that go with this. And so when you're launching these, make sure you peg the types of ads that work: testimonial ads, walkthrough or intro ads, like you was mentioning. Just whip out your cell phone. We found that when we do a professional ad versus one with our cell phone video, that the cell phone video, as long as it's not crazy bad, works great because it's that personal touch. So you'll find me on some of my ads, y'all, literally using this cell phone and I'm walking through my office. And that's something I like to start them off walking or in an interesting spot because it grabs a person's eye versus me just kind of sitting there. So I'll be walking, I'll shut the door, do something that's a pattern interrupt at the start of that short video, and then I'll walk toward where I'm going to go and deliver the message. So it's kind of get creative the way that you can do that to throw a pattern interrupt at something when they first start seeing it, that they will go, oh, I want to watch this thing. So come up with your testimonial ads, and then like Kylie showed, and you can see in those slides, kind of format them in the way where you're giving a really good quote from that testimonial somewhere at the top that wraps in a benefit of how you can help that person or how you did help that person. A good call to action. One thing I guess that I want to clarify for myself and for everyone is we showed the individual ads, but let's say there's an ad set, Kylie, and how many ads are you putting in a specific ad set? Is it, you've got the targeting in there, and let's say you've got the lists that you're uploading from List Source or whatever. How many specific ads are you putting in that? And is there a specific strategy around the mix of those ads?
Yeah, good question. Okay, so this is why the new dynamic content stuff is so exciting, because previously there wasn't a really great way to A/B test ads inside of an ad set at the same time. So if you're not doing dynamic content, I would recommend 1, maybe 2 ads inside of an ad set. And here's why. Facebook will start favoring whichever ad seems to be performing better pretty early on in the process. So you don't really get a true test of those ads. But I would use dynamic content in every circumstance you can. And then here's what I would test. I would test still imagery versus a video, and maybe one type of video versus another video. And be careful when you're testing that you don't test too many things at once. So if you're testing still imagery versus video, then your copy, if your copy is not the same, you'll have a hard time understanding whether it was the copy or the visual that made a difference. So a couple schools of thought there, but I love controlling variables as much as I can. So I'll put in a still image and two different types of videos, and I'll keep the copy and the call to action exactly the same. And then dynamic ad content over time will show me which one is performing best. I will then pause the ones that are not performing as well. And I'll take, so let's say it was the still image that performed best. I'll then take that still image, I'll duplicate it a couple of times, and now I'll test a couple variations of copy on that still image. So I'm kind of going through layers of testing. That new dynamic content, fairly new dynamic content, is super exciting in that regard.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. And one thing that we look at when we're doing our ads too, and we've of course done tons and tons of ads, we'll at some point, spend $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, $10,000 a month, sometimes in Facebook ads. And so we test a lot of stuff. We're going to get even better at it testing this next year. We've done a lot for sellers and buyers too. And then we have a ton of data that we see. And in general, when you think about human psychology, we have a blog post on this, the inside the mind of a motivated seller. You have to really remember the phase of the buy cycle that they're in when they land in your website, or when they are seeing an ad cold. And just kind of visualizing it here, you guys can go to our website, go to oncarrot.com/blog, and then in the search box, type inside the mind or something like that. We will link it up as a resource below this in the Market Leaders Revealed training. So inside mind blog post link up. Okay, we'll link that up. So basically, you've got people who are problem aware first. Okay, they're aware that they have a problem. So if someone who's problem aware is going to be more disposed to go, okay, I've got this problem, I need to sell my house fast, whatever it is, you're going to catch their attention by showing them something that says, oh, you have a house you need to sell, well, we can buy it. Okay, so that's addressing their direct need. Oh, I know you have a service. Now what happens once you got their attention there, and they know that there's options for them, and they've probably seen other ads, or they've probably Googled some things or got some direct mail pieces. Now they know there's options. They go, okay, well, I know that these services can likely solve my problem. Now I'm solution aware. I know there's these solutions, but what is next is, which one should I work with? And at that point, that's where your retargeting comes in big time, because they're already past the point where they're problem aware. Okay, they're now solution aware. What you need to get them over is you need to get them to choose you, to vet and verify you as the best one to work with. So during that next phase, after their solution aware, they're going out there to go, okay, well, let's look at the credibility. Let's look at which one I should work with, which one's actually going to give me the best offer, but also going to fulfill on it. And so that's where your testimonial ads come in play in a big way. That's where write down a list of all of the objections that your sellers may have, whether they tell you them or not, but they're probably thinking, well, shoot, they're probably going to lowball me. Are they actually going to fulfill and close on this on time? I need to close really fast. Are they trustworthy? All those types of objections that are going through their mind, write them down. And then what we do is we go through and get testimonials and testimonial ads that combat each one of those objections. For Carrie here, one of the most popular ads that we've had that's led to the most sales is a straight up objection ad. And once we added this, our whole retargeting sequence performed a lot better. It's one that basically in the back of someone's mind, before they're joining Carrot, as an example, they're going, okay, so Carrot seems pretty cool, but is this something I can just go like, let me just go to Wix or Weebly or Squarespace, or set up my own WordPress site, or have my cousin Jimmy build me a site for $100, because it seems like it's easy. It seems like I can like borrow these concepts and put them to play. But what we found is when people do that, they actually, because they're not the expert, they just miss this one thing. The results aren't there. if you lose one deal a year, it's going to cost you 10, 20, 30 grand. Is it worth it to kind of cheapen out by $50 a month or $100 a month? So we have an ad that literally says Carrot versus the low cost and cheap website builders, the true difference. And then we drive them to a blog post that shows data, and it shows people who actually are case studies who did that, who went the other way, and it converted way worse, and they lost tens of thousands of dollars because of lack of performance. So how can you guys find those objections, then make sure that you're working to create content that you can drive people to in your ads, and or pull out those case studies or testimonials that directly combat those objections for you, so you don't have to do it. It's good stuff. Anything else on your mind, Kyle? I know we're working up a massive new Facebook training program. So we've had the Facebook Leads class for sale for about 1.5 to 2 years in our system. And it was a really, really thorough training, but so much has changed in Facebook in the last 1.5 to 2 years. So we're actually partnering with Kylie to create the categorical resource for real estate investors and agents to generate leads through Facebook. We're talking what you did here times 10 and more. You dive in a lot more deeply, because we will have more time to dive more deeply in that. And we're excited to let people know about that. So if this is something that you guys do want to learn more about, just kind of keep an eye out. We'll be putting out some great stuff about Facebook marketing with Kylie. And he is running more traffic and more leads through Facebook than anyone that I've ever seen. And for sure, anyone that's managing Facebook traffic for Carrot clients, because we can see all that stuff. And I'm just really pumped about what we're putting together behind the scenes right now. That's going to really help a lot of people this year. So, Kylie, I appreciate you hopping on this Market Leaders Reveal call. If there's any last questions, you guys can put them through. Do you have anything on your end?
Add that I'm super excited for the course as well. It's going to be, I think, something that's going to be really valuable. And like I mentioned at the beginning of the call, I genuinely want to see the industry kind of level up in its ability to market online. And one of the things that's part of the reason that I enjoy working with Carrot is, that's part of your mission too, is just making it so that people have time to spend on the things that are most important. Mm-hmm. So super exciting. I will be watching this Facebook update really carefully. So be tuned. I guess stay tuned. I think if it has a huge impact, that's certainly something I'm going to be talking about. I think Trevor, you guys will be talking about it too, or maybe we'll be talking about it together. But in the meantime, I it's business as usual, and I'm super excited to hear how things go. So that's probably the last thing I'd say is, if you guys are having success on Facebook and something that we talked about in here ends up creating value for you, I would love to hear about it. Please tell us. I love hearing that, about success. One of the things that I love most about what I'm doing right now is just interacting with other entrepreneurs every single day and seeing people achieve goals and make changes. And so please share that success with us. If you have questions, I'll do my best to help answer those as well. But I appreciate everyone's time and appreciate being on the call as well.
Appreciate it, man. If you guys do have any questions, Slack them through. That's the communication platform that we use here on our team. Slack has become like a verb on our team, man. It's kind of like Google. You'll Google it, searching. Anyway, if you have any questions, guys, send them through the chat panel. We can answer them here in chat. And also, so we're going to be getting these resources up, and you'll have all the slides in there. And same thing, if you have questions as you go, please let us know, because we want to make this training even better. And a couple quick announcements, and we'll let you guys out of here, is we've added another person to the Market Leaders Revealed training. We'll let you know about them here shortly. You're going to be pumped about that person. They're a Carrot customer who is very, very visible out there in the community on Instagram and on YouTube, and they're doing really, really, really good stuff. So we'll announce it, not to kind of give you guys a cliffhanger there, but he's doing consistently close to $100,000 a month in wholesaling right now. through cold calling and Carrot, actually, Google pay-per-click. And he's going to show the way that he is refining his Google pay-per-click campaigns to where he's closing 25% of his leads into a deal, which is not normal at all. So he's going to be showing that stuff. So keep an eye out. That's an addition to that. And we're refining the schedule on some of this as well. Those of you who are following us live through this course, sometimes it is hard to pin down people's schedules on this very, very specific time slot we've got on Thursday at 11 o'clock Pacific time. So there's one or two that we're still trying to get us on schedule. But this next week, if you're watching this live, Tyler Ford, who is dominating the Tucson market. If you're going to Google anything in the Tucson market, as of the time we're recording this for sellers, you're going to find Tyler Ford's site. They're probably ranking number 1, 2, 3, and sometimes 4. And he's going to show you how he's doing some small but powerful tweaks with our blogging platform, with our Content Pro blogs, and with his own content to really go in there and swarm his market. And he's really excited about it. He's actually put together an entire success guide that we're hoping that we can give to you guys as included in this, and exactly how to be successful with Carrot using his method. So it's a step-by-step guide that he's been working on right now, which is awesome. And then we've got Brian Rockwell coming up. He's done, did over $600,000 in wholesale profits, wholesale fees in his first year in business, following the model that he's going to lay out, 100% using Carrot. And we've got some other amazing ones too. Direct mail with Ryan Berry, how he's using direct mail to still crack through the clutter while other people's direct mail isn't working as well. So pretty pumped about the series, y'all. And thank you for being patient with us. If you're watching this live through the holiday season, the new year, those did mess up the schedule a little bit, but we're going to be hot and heavy moving forward from here. So thank y'all. If you have questions, let us know. And Ellie, yes, Ellie says, thank you so much for answering our questions and the great insights. We love you guys. Kylie, thanks, man. Big time. I'm getting ready to hop on a podcast right now. So see y'all.
All right. See ya. Thank you.